You're not stuck. You're just waiting. That may sting a little, but let's call it what it is. The truth is, most people spend months, years, sometimes even decades believing that something is holding them back. They tell themselves they can't make a change because of money, family, time, responsibilities, or a lack of confidence. But that's not actually what's happening. What's really going on is this: they're waiting. Waiting for something to magically change, waiting for a sign, waiting for someone to rescue them, waiting until they feel ready. And here's the brutal truth: ready is a lie. You're never going to feel ready. That's why you have to move even when you're scared, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it doesn't make sense to anyone else. Because the longer you wait, the more rooted your life becomes in the exact situation you want to escape. Think about this. How many times have you told yourself, "I'll start tomorrow," or "I'll do it when things calm down," or "Now's just not the right time"? How many ideas, plans, and goals have you buried under that kind of hesitation? You convince yourself you need more time to plan, more research, more stability, but what you really need is action, right now, not next week, not next year, today, because what you're calling being stuck is often just the result of repeated hesitation. And hesitation becomes a habit that kills progress, a habit that keeps you watching life instead of participating in it. There's a mental trap we fall into. We believe that something external has to happen first before we can change our lives. We think we need someone to approve our choices, or the perfect set of circumstances to show up before we leap. That's a lie your brain tells you to keep you safe, but safe and stuck often live in the same place. You've been sold the idea that if you wait long enough, something will shift for you, that if you're patient enough, the right moment will knock on your door. It won't. That moment doesn't exist unless you create it. People talk about feeling trapped in jobs they hate, relationships that don't fulfill them, or routines that leave them empty, but they're not trapped. They've just stopped making decisions. They've surrendered the wheel of their own lives to fear, routine, and indecision. And the cost of that, regret. You don't get time back. Every single day you delay is a day you're choosing the life you're trying to change. That hurts, I know, but facing that fact is where the power begins. Because if you're not actually stuck and you're just waiting, that means you can stop waiting right now. And when you stop waiting, everything can change. You don't need a new job to reinvent your life. You don't need to move to a different city. You don't need thousands of dollars or a sudden stroke of luck. You need to wake up and decide that your future is worth more than your comfort. You need to realize that one tiny, scary step forward is more powerful than 1,000 perfect plans never acted on. Reinvention doesn't start with a big leap, it starts with a decision to stop waiting. A decision to stop believing the lie that you're stuck. A decision to move, and you can make that decision today. One bold decision can change everything. That's not a motivational quote, it's a fact. The life you're living right now is the result of a series of choices, some big, most small, but all of them stacked up into the reality you're currently in. And the good news is, that means you have the power to change it. People often think reinvention requires a full-blown transformation. A new job, new body, new city, new relationships. But that's not how real change works. It starts with one defining moment, one decision that interrupts the pattern. One choice that scares you enough to wake you up. Maybe it's finally saying no to something you've tolerated for too long. Maybe it's picking up the phone and applying for that course, making that move, ending that toxic situation, or saying out loud for the first time what you actually want. That one decision breaks the cycle. The mistake most people make is thinking that change is complicated, and because it feels complicated, they delay it. They overthink, overanalyze, and drown themselves in what ifs. What if I fail? What if I regret it? What if I'm not good enough? But here's the thing, fear will never go away. The fear is not a stop sign, it's a signal. It's a sign that you're about to do something that matters. And when you lean into it instead of running from it, you begin to shift the direction of your life. One bold decision cuts through years of self-doubt. One bold decision proves to you that you are not a victim of your circumstances. You are the architect of your future. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to know what the next 5 years look like. You just need the guts to make one move. That move won't be easy. It might feel reckless. People around you might not get it. But you're not doing it for them. You're doing it because the life you want won't show up while you're playing it safe. Comfort zones are silent killers. They lull you into settling. They disguise themselves as stability, but underneath, they're draining you of growth. The moment you make a bold decision, just one, you reclaim control, you stop drifting, you start creating. That single decision becomes the spark, the pivot point, the proof that you're capable of more than you've allowed yourself to believe. It all starts with that one bold, terrifying, empowering choice. Stop listening to your feelings. That sounds harsh, right? But let's get something clear. Your feelings are not facts. They're just temporary states influenced by fear, fatigue, doubt, and years of conditioning. If you keep waiting to feel ready, before you take action, you'll never move. Because the truth is, you're not going to feel like doing the hard things. You're not going to feel motivated to start over, to face rejection, to step into the unknown. That hesitation you feel, it's not a warning, it's resistance. And resistance shows up every single time you try to grow. Every time you decide to break a pattern, step forward, or take a risk, your brain will try to protect you with one powerful weapon: feelings. It will flood you with fear, anxiety, uncertainty. It'll whisper that you're not good enough, not ready, not capable. And if you listen, you'll freeze. Successful people, reinvented people, don't act based on what they feel. They act based on what they decide. They understand that change isn't born out of comfort or emotion. It's born out of commitment. You don't wake up one day suddenly feeling like reinventing your life. You wake up and decide to take action regardless of how you feel. That's where real transformation starts. Not in your emotions, but in your behavior and the magic. Your feelings eventually catch up to your actions. When you move forward despite the fear, confidence starts to build. When you keep promises to yourself, belief begins to grow. When you take control of your day, your life begins to shift. So if you're tired of being stuck, tired of feeling lost or unfulfilled, then stop waiting to feel different. Move, do the thing you've been putting off, make the call, set the boundary, hit publish, sign up, walk away. Feelings will scream, but action is louder. And when you start choosing action over emotion, you start choosing your future over your fear. Micro wins lead to macro change. Most people look at transformation as this giant, overwhelming mountain they have to climb. They think reinvention means making huge, dramatic shifts all at once, quitting the job, moving across the country, starting a business, going all in overnight. And that belief alone is what stops them before they even begin. Because the truth is, real change doesn't happen in big leaps. It happens in small, consistent wins that build momentum over time. Micro wins are the tiny victories that seem too insignificant to matter. Waking up 30 minutes earlier, making your bed, sending that email, choosing a salad instead of fast food, reading 10 pages of a book. They look like nothing in the moment, but they are everything. They're proof that you're showing up differently. They're the building blocks of discipline. They're what rewire your brain to believe, I can actually do this. People often underestimate how powerful consistency is. They want results now. They want the full transformation without doing the boring, unglamorous work. But those micro wins, they're how confidence is built. Every time you complete one, you're training yourself to trust yourself again. You're undoing the damage caused by years of breaking promises to yourself. And with each one, you're stacking belief. You're proving that you can show up, you can stay in motion, you can do hard things. Micro wins create a new identity, a person who follows through, who takes control, who finishes what they start. And here's the part no one talks about: when life gets hard, and it will, it's not motivation that will save you. It's the habit of stacking wins. It's the momentum you've built from the small stuff that will keep you moving when everything else tries to knock you down. That's why the tiniest action matters, because micro wins are the cracks in the old version of you. And the more cracks you create, the more the old identity breaks apart, making room for something new to emerge. Reinvention isn't one giant leap, it's thousands of small steps, thousands of micro wins stacked one on top of the other until one day you don't just feel different, you are different. You don't need motivation, you need momentum. Motivation is one of the most unreliable feelings you can depend on. It shows up randomly and it disappears just as fast. One day you feel fired up, ready to tackle everything, and the next, you can't even get out of bed. That's not a personal flaw, that's human nature. Motivation is emotional. It's tied to your mood, your environment, your energy levels. And if you keep waiting on motivation to make a move, you'll be waiting forever. The secret that no one tells you is that momentum is what actually changes your life. It's not about feeling ready, it's about doing something, anything, that moves you forward and then repeating that action. Momentum is created when you show up, even when you don't want to. It's what kicks in when you push past the resistance and take action anyway. The first step is always the hardest. That's where the friction is. But the moment you start, something shifts. You prove to yourself that you're capable of action, and that tiny spark of progress builds energy, and that energy, that's momentum. It's why 5 minutes of doing something is more powerful than 5 hours of planning. It's why getting dressed and walking out the door leads to the workout. It's why opening the laptop leads to finishing the project. Once you start moving, it becomes easier to keep going. And the more you keep going, the less you rely on how you feel, and the more you rely on the habit you're building. People who reinvent their lives don't wait for motivation. They create momentum by acting when it's uncomfortable, when they're tired, when no one's watching, when it's boring. And that's the part that matters, because when you build momentum, you build resilience. You stop being at the mercy of your moods and start becoming the kind of person who gets things done no matter what. Momentum doesn't just create progress, it creates identity. You become someone who finishes, someone who pushes through, someone who makes things happen without needing a spark every time. Reinvention happens in the doing, not the dreaming. We've all been there, sitting around imagining the life we want, the version of ourselves that's confident, successful, fulfilled. We fantasize about quitting that job, starting that business, getting in shape, writing that book, traveling the world. It feels good to dream. It gives us a temporary high, but dreaming doesn't change your life, doing does. That's where most people get stuck. They confuse thinking about change with actually changing. They spend months, sometimes years, visualizing a new future without ever taking a single uncomfortable step toward it. They convince themselves they're preparing, planning, researching, but what they're really doing is stalling, because dreaming is safe. It's exciting and comforting. Doing, on the other hand, is risky. It's messy. It requires vulnerability, effort, and sometimes failure, but only in the doing can real transformation take root. The problem is, we've been taught to believe that clarity comes before action, that we have to have the whole plan figured out before we move, that we need to know the outcome before we take the leap. That's wrong. Clarity comes from action. The path reveals itself when you start walking it. You can't think your way into a new life. You have to behave your way into it. Every action you take gives you feedback. It teaches you what works, what doesn't, what you like, what you're capable of. It moves you forward, even if you take a wrong turn, and that forward motion builds confidence. It chips away at the fear and self-doubt that kept you stuck. Every moment of doing is another vote for the person you want to become. Reinvention isn't a magical moment. It's a collection of small, imperfect actions taken consistently. It's waking up and choosing to live differently today, not just talking about doing it someday. It's learning to trust the process, to show up without guarantees, to do the hard things when no one's watching. Dreaming doesn't get you results, action does. And when you decide to start doing, even while you're scared or uncertain, you set a chain reaction in motion that begins reshaping your entire life from the inside out. Here's the truth, inventing your life isn't about waiting for the right time or feeling motivated or having the perfect plan. It's about recognizing that you're not stuck, you're just not moving, and you have the power to change that starting right now. It starts with one bold decision that breaks your pattern. It starts by refusing to let fear dictate your future. It starts by choosing action over emotion, stacking micro wins, creating momentum, and doing the hard things even when you don't feel like it. Because the life you dream of won't come from dreaming, it will come from doing. So if you've been sitting on the edge of a decision, if you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. This is your permission to stop waiting and start moving. Don't let another day pass living a life that doesn't fulfill you. Don't let comfort cost you your future. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to start today, right here, with what you have, because reinvention doesn't begin tomorrow. It begins the moment you decide to take your power back. So take it, move forward, and never look back.